Hello everyone, welcome to my class today. Today we'll be seeing the next topic, that is in nervous system. It is cerebrovascular accident. Cerebrovascular accident is called as CVA or stroke. So it is one of the important conditions, and in exam point of view it is very important. So when we see the definition of cerebrovascular accident, so cerebrovascular accident means it is also called as stroke. So it is an emergency medical condition. So emergency condition where the brain cells are damaged or the brain is not receiving the oxygen due to any obstruction or rupture. Okay, so obstruction is, so there is a blood supply to the brain. It is called a circle of Willis. Okay, circle of Willis. So it is the main branch is the carotid artery, which is going through the neck from the heart. It goes through the neck, and this circle of Willis will divide into so many branches, and it will supply all the parts of the brain. So you can see this is the brain, and this circle of Willis, these arteries are supplying all the structures of the brain. So the cerebrovascular accident can happen in case of any rupture. So I am showing this um, one artery. So this is the artery, and here you can see the rupture, or the it's not rupture, you can see the blood clot. So when there is a blood clot, so in this area the blood will come, but it will obstruct here. So the blood cannot go after this area, so this part of the brain. So for example, here the clot is there, after this area blood cannot perfuse, so this area of the brain will not get the blood supply. So when there is no blood supply, there is no oxygen to the brain tissue. When there is no oxygen to brain tissue starts dying, and that condition is called cerebrovascular accident. Okay, and this can happen because of two things. One is due to the blood clot, which I said, and also it can be due to a rupture. So this rupture of the blood vessels can happen because of so many disease condition, or it can also happen because of this thrombus is a blood clot. So when there is a blood clot here, so the area before this area blood will be coming like this, but it cannot move after this blood clot. So here the pressure will increase. So when the pressure increase, the smaller arteries, in case the blood clot is there, these arteries will start rupturing. When they rupture, they cause this bleeding. So when there is a bleeding, so the brain is a compact tissue, so the blood cannot come outside. So inside itself the blood will get accumulated and form like a hematoma, and this hematoma is nothing but swelling and redness around the brain tissue, and this brain hematoma will compress the nearby nerves, so that the nerves will not get the oxygen supply, and that nerve will go for damage, and the nerve, and you know, the whole function of the body is controlled by this nerves from the brain. So when a nerve is getting damaged, the nerve that is supplying to the part of the body also will not get the blood supply, and the nerve cells will start dying. That is called a cerebrovascular accident. Next, coming to the types of stroke, there are two types of stroke. One is called as ischemic stroke, and the other one is called as hemorrhagic stroke. So as I already said, when there is a block in the blood vessels, okay, when the block in the blood vessels, the part after the block will not receive the blood supply, so that area of the brain tissue will not receive oxygen, and thereby the person will go for ischemia. Ischemia means lack of oxygen. So that part of the brain tissue will go for ischemia. So that type of stroke is called as ischemic stroke. Again, the ischemic stroke is divided into three as lacunar stroke. So lacunar stroke is mainly due to some calcium deposits during old age. These calcium gets deposits on the deep arteries. Okay, so where there are small arteries that are running deep inside the brain, so these calciums can deposit in the deep arteries, and they form the lacunar stroke. And mostly lacunar stroke is a silent stroke. Silent stroke means the stroke initially it won't show signs and symptoms. At the later stages it can lead to a major stroke. Okay, and that is lacunar stroke, which is caused due to calcium deposit. And the other stroke is thrombotic stroke. Okay, so thrombotic means thrombus is blood clot. Okay, so so as I already said, when the blood vessel, there is a blood clot here. Because of the blood clot, the blood is not moving from this area to the other area, and this part of the brain tissue is not getting the blood supply and getting damaged. That is called as thrombotic stroke. And next is the emboli stroke. So embolic stroke. So emboli means it is a moving blood clot. Okay, so this moving blood clot can be from a thrombotic stroke. So from this thrombotic stroke, in the force of blood, the one small piece of this blood clot can move inside the blood vessel, and some other branch which is very smaller, this clot can go and obstruct. Or it can be in any part of the body, like if there is any clot in the blood vessels from the heart. Okay, so any part of the systemic artery, if there is a clot, in the force of moving blood, the clot also will mobilize and come to the brain tissue, and that part of the brain tissue will go for damage. Then we call it as embolic stroke. Okay, and hemorrhagic means it is bleeding. So when there is a clot inside the blood vessel, this part of the area, there will be high pressure, and the blood will be moving here, but it cannot move after the clot. So the pressure will increase, and this area will bulge, and later it will rupture. So when they rupture and they cause bleeding, and this bleeding will go and compress the nearby nerves, and the nerves will get damaged. That is called as hemorrhagic stroke. Okay, again hemorrhagic stroke is divided into intracerebral hemorrhage. So cerebrum is brain. So when the bleeding occurs within the brain tissue, then we call it as intracerebral hemorrhage. And intraventricular hemorrhage, ventricles are area where the CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid, is running within the brain tissue, so that it will prevent friction, and also it helps in shock absorber for the brain. So when the bleeding occurs in the intraventricular system, then we call it as, that is inside the ventricles, when the bleeding occurs, we call it as intraventricular hemorrhage. And the other hemorrhage is the subarachnoid hemorrhage. So when you see the brain is covered by three layers called as dura mater, arachnoid membrane, and the pia mater. So dura is the inner layer, arachnoid membrane is the middle layer, and pia mater is the outer layer. So when the bleeding occurs within the subarachnoid membrane and the pia mater, then we call it as subarachnoid hemorrhage. Okay, so these are the types of stroke. Next, coming to the causes of stroke, there are non-modifiable and modifiable factors. So non-modifiable means there is no modification or changes cannot be done, so there is more chance for getting the stroke. And modifiable is, if we make some lifestyle changes or modification in the lifestyle, that means you can prevent the stroke. Okay, so in non-modifiable, first is age. Okay, so when people are growing older, they are more risk for getting the stroke. So more than 55 years of age, they are high risk, because in old age there is more of platelet aggregation taking place in the blood vessels. This can result in stroke. And gender, so males are more prone than females, because females, they have estrogen during their menstruating period. So this estrogen will prevent the clot formation or prevent cholesterol aggregation within the blood vessels, whereas male from 20 years after, they have this cholesterol deposition taking place in the arteries like streaks, and when they become older, there will be more cholesterol deposition taking place, which can result in occlusion of the arteries and thereby stroke. And race is mainly some African Americans and those who follow the Western lifestyle. Okay, so in Western lifestyle, because of high cholesterol diet and the way of living and their alcoholism, smoking, so these are some more common in the Western lifestyle. So people who follow that, they have high risk of getting stroke. And next is family history. So if there is a family member who is having stroke, then the children also can get the stroke. Okay, so they are more prone for getting stroke if there is any family history of stroke. And next, coming to the modifiable risk factors. So modifiable is you can make some modifications. Okay, so in this, first is hypertension. So hypertension is increased blood pressure. So when there is high blood pressure, again the arteries can rupture and they can go for hemorrhagic stroke. Okay, and also high blood pressure will cause endothelial injury. Injury means, so you know the blood vessels inner layer is called endothelium. There can be damage to the inner layer. So whenever there is an injury, platelets will attract this area and they form like a clot, and thereby they can go for stroke. Okay, and if a person is having hypertension, we have to advise them to take antihypertensive drugs and modify the diet habit, like decreasing salt and cholesterol in diet, so that he can make changes and thereby he can prevent the stroke. And next is heart disease. Okay, and from the heart only blood is pumped into the brain. Okay, and if there is already a atrial fibrillation, arrhythmia, so some problem in the heart, where a thrombus can be formed in the heart, and in the moving blood flow this thrombus can convert like a emboli, and this emboli can come and obstruct the brain blood vessels. Okay, blood vessels of the brain. So patient with heart disease are more prone for getting stroke. Okay, and when person is having heart disease, again we have to take proper treatment and management of heart disease, so that we can prevent the stroke. And next is smoking, alcoholism, and any illicit drug use. Okay, so illicit drug use is some drug abuse. Okay, so in any of these cases, these are all chemicals which can cause staining of the blood vessels. So staining means they form like a nicotine stain in the blood vessels, and when these are abnormal thing in the blood vessel, then platelet will aggregate in that area and they can form a clot. Okay, and next it can be due to physical inactivity or sedentary lifestyle. Okay, so when person is not doing much of work and he just keeps on eating and just not wasting the energy. Okay, so only when we do some workout or exercise, the energy will get wasted. That is, all the fat molecules will convert into energy. So if a person is not doing much of activity and following the sedentary lifestyle, then all the is more prone for getting obese, and when there is obesity, cholesterol more it will deposit on the walls of the arteries and they can form clot inside the arteries. Okay, and next is obesity and high cholesterol intake. Okay, so when person is very fat and he is taking more of cholesterol, again this cholesterol will accumulate the walls of the arteries and they can go for stroke. Next is use of oral contraceptives. So these drugs are also chemicals which can injure the endothelium of the blood vessels, and then whenever there is an injury, there will be platelet aggregation. So these are the causes of stroke, and there is other causes, mainly in case of hemorrhagic stroke. The causes of hemorrhagic stroke is, first is hypertension. So as I already said, when there is increased pressure in the walls of arteries, then there will be rupture, and there is rupture and bleeding which can cause the hemorrhagic stroke. And next is cerebral angiopathy. Angio means blood vessel, pathy is disease condition. So any disease of the blood vessels can go into rupture of the blood vessels. Okay, that is the blood vessels are made up of smooth muscles. So when there is some disease in the smooth muscles where the muscles becomes weakened and thereby elasticity is lost, then the blood will not move properly. Okay, and they can go for rupture. And then rupture of cerebral aneurysm. Aneurysm is outpouching of the blood vessels. Okay, so normally blood vessels will be like this, but aneurysm, the blood vessel can pouch like this. Okay, so this is due to some weakening in the blood vessels. Whenever the blood vessel go for weakening due to injury or any chemical use, anything, they can cause weakening of this muscle. So when the muscles are weakening, the blood is coming here, they will lose the elasticity, so all blood will accumulate here, and then later the blood vessels will go for rupture and thereby bleeding can happen. So that is rupture of cerebral aneurysms. And next is vascular malformation. So these are, okay, so there is AV, arteriovenous malformation occurs in case of congenital disease. Okay, so if there is a children this is occurring congenital, that is from birth itself the arterium and venous system is not formed properly, then the person can go for rupture. And next is coagulation disorders. So coagulation disorders like hemophilia, thrombocytopenia, so there are so many diseases. So when person is having problem with the coagulation, then the person will go for bleeding. Coagulation is clot. When there is problem in formation of clot, then the opposite is bleeding, so patient can go for bleeding. Okay, that is there is no clotting factors to stop the bleeding. And next can be thrombolytic drugs. Okay, so when we treat the patient, so in most of the coagulation disorders we will give thrombolytic drugs in order to release the coagulation. So when there is more thrombolytic drugs given, then the clot will be released and person will go for bleeding. Okay, and then it can be due to illicit drug use like cocaine, which I already said. Okay, cocaine is a chemical which can rupture the blood vessels. And any trauma, so any head injury or any brain injury, so where the person can go for direct bleeding. And it can be brain tumors. Okay, so again brain tumors, so the tumor is a growing tissue which can compress the blood vessels. Again when the blood vessel pressure is increased, it can go for rupture. Okay, so these are the causes of hemorrhagic stroke. Okay, next coming to the pathophysiology of stroke. So in pathophysiology, so due to any causes or risk factors, so we have discussed already all the causes and risk factors of stroke, like modifiable anything or non-modifiable any risk factors, they cause formation of lipid deposits on the walls of the cerebral arteries. Okay, I said there will be lipid deposition taking place on the walls of the arteries. So whenever there is lipids and cholesterol, these are all abnormal for the blood vessels. So there will be attraction of platelet and coagulation factors in the blood vessels. Okay, so blood consists of RBC, WBC and these platelets, clotting factors. So they all will attract to this lipid area. Okay, where the fat is deposited. So lipid is nothing but fat. So when they will go and attract this area, so when they are attracting, more and more platelet will aggregate in this area and they form like a big clot inside the blood vessels. Okay, so they will cause occlusion of the arteries. Occlusion means obstruction. Okay, so there is obstruction of the arteries. Okay, so when there is an obstruction, so if there is obstruction here, after this part the blood will not go. So when this area of the tissues will not receive the blood supply, that is called as ischemic stroke, which is decreased blood flow and oxygen supply to the brain tissue. Okay, so there is lack of oxygen supply to the brain tissue. So this ischemic stroke can be of two types. As I already said, it can be due to a thrombus, that is formation of thrombus in the arteries. Thrombus is blood clot. So as due to this cholesterol deposition, there will be formation of blood clot, and there can be rupture of blood clot from the blood vessel during the blood flow. Okay, so I said now, so whenever there is a blood clot or thrombus there, during the force of blood flow, okay, so during the force of blood flow, the blood clot can rupture in the blood vessels and they will form like a emboli. Okay, emboli is moving clot. Thrombus can cause lack of blood flow through the obstructed artery. Okay, so as I said, when there is a cholesterol deposition and platelet aggregation, there will be obstruction, so that there will be lack of blood flow. Okay, so when there is no blood flow going, so that area where the blood is not supplied, so blood is supplying oxygen to tissues, there will be impaired oxygen perfusion to the cerebral tissue. Okay, cerebral tissue will not receive the oxygen. So when there is no oxygen, then the brain cells will start dying, that is called as thrombotic stroke. Okay, on the other hand, so when there is a thrombus on the force of blood flow, okay, so when there this thrombus or the blood clot, so from the brain or from any part of the body, through the force of blood flow, this blood clot can rupture from the blood vessels during the force of blood flow and they form like a emboli. Emboli means moving clot. Okay, and this emboli will obstruct other branches of the cerebral artery. Okay, so maybe the thrombus will be big thrombus is here. Okay, so when they are rupturing the blood vessels will give so many branches. This small piece of the emboli can be obstructing any other small artery. So this artery will not receive the blood supply. Okay, so emboli obstruct other branches of cerebral artery, which can result in lack of perfusion to that tissues and thereby death of brain cells, which is called as embolic stroke. Okay, and now okay, so when there is a embolic stroke and a thrombotic stroke, so there will be increased thrombus formation. Okay, so when this, so emboli is also a clot and this also is a clot. Okay, so this, the thrombus formation will cause increased pressure within the cerebral arteries. Okay, so when there is a thrombus here or an emboli, anything is there, this area that is prior to the clot area, there will be increased pressure, so blood vessels will start bulging out and they will rupture. Okay, so increased pressure within the cerebral arteries, which will cause rupture of the arteries. Okay, so when there is rupture of arteries, so arteries will start bleeding, so that is formation of bleeding, and when the bleeding is staying for a quite a long time in a particular area, it forms like a hematoma. Hematoma is redness and swelling. Okay, and so if the bleeding is occurring within the brain tissue or parenchyma, we call it as intracerebral hemorrhage. If it is occurring in the ventricles, okay, ventricles are nothing but they are the ventricular system which is surrounding the brain. So this consists of cerebrospinal fluid and they will act as a shock absorber for the brain. Okay, the shock absorber is when something is falling on the head, immediately this CSF will cover the brain so that directly injury cannot occur to the brain cells. Okay, so that is called ventricular system, and when the bleeding occurs within the ventricles, we call it as intraventricular hemorrhage, and when the bleeding is occurring within the covering layers of the brain. Okay, so brain is covered by three layers: dura mater, subarachnoid membrane and pia mater. So that is when the bleeding occurs within these layers, that is in the arachnoid membrane and the pia mater, then we call it as subarachnoid hemorrhage. Okay, so when there is bleeding, so this bleeding causes compression of nerves nearby. Okay, so the blood or the hematoma is nothing but when the blood is staying long for in a particular area, it become like a clot. Okay, so bleeding causes compression of the nearby nerves and there will be dysfunction of the brain tissue. So nerves are responsible for functioning, so the brain tissue will not function. When the brain tissue is not functioning, that part of the brain tissue which is supplying the nerves to the organ, that organ also will not function. So impaired function of activity of the organ system supplied by the affected nerves, which is called as cerebrovascular accident. So I hope you have understood the pathophysiology.
Manifestation: patient will have hemiplegia, which is paralysis of half of the body. So that is which part of the brain is affected, the opposite half will be paralyzed. It is because decussation or crossing over of nerve fibers takes place in the medulla oblongata. And next is muscle weakness. This is again because nerves are damaged. The nerves that are supplying to the face also get damaged. So patient will go for muscle weakness. And numbness is tingling sensation in the extremities. This is again because nerve damage. And reduction in sensory or vibratory sensation. Okay, so that is our touch, smell, seeing, hearing. So all those senses will be reduced, and also vibration, that is vibrating sensation, also is lost. And flaccidity is flabby muscles become loose and flabby in the initial stages, and which will progress to spasticity. Spasticity is increased muscle tone, where the muscles will become stiff and patient may not regain the function. Okay, that is, he cannot move his limbs or arms as before normal. And altered smell, taste, hearing and vision, this may be total loss or partial according to the area of the brain is affected. And ptosis, which is drooping of eyelids, the eyelid will be drooped down. This again, there is eyelid supplying nerves are damaged. And weakness of ocular muscles. Okay, so because of ocular is the eye muscles, they are getting damaged, so eyelid is drooping down. Next is decreased reflexes, that is gag, swallow, pupillary reaction to light. All those reflexes will be decreased again due to nerve damage. And decreased sensation, so sensation is touch sensation will be absent. And ataxia is loss of coordination of movements, that is balance problems will there if cerebellum is affected. Again nystagmus, so this also will be due to cerebellum. So there is rapid involuntary eye movements will be present, and patient breathing and heart rate will be altered, and weakness in the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay, this is the neck muscle, so that the person will have difficulty in moving the head, so patient's neck will become stiff. Next is weakness in the tongue, so there will be inability to stick out the tongue or move the tongue side to side, so that the tongue may fall back and close the respiratory tract. Next is aphasia, which means difficulty with verbal expression like auditory comprehension and reading and writing. Okay, that is patient will forget all the learned activities, that is he will not be able to do those activities, all the reading, writing, all those activities will be lost. Okay, next is dysarthria, which means difficulty in speaking, so the motor speech disorder, again due to nerve injury. And apraxia is altered voluntary movements. Okay, that is patient will not be able to do any voluntary movements like all the bathing, cleaning, so whatever movements he was doing, and also writing, holding the pencil, holding objects, so everything will be altered. And visual field defect, that is he will not be able to know the side vision. Okay, so even when we are looking forward, we will know what is happening in the side, but these patients will not identify the side vision. And amnesia is memory loss, so patient will not remember what he ate food or what he did in the last previous before stroke, what was the incident, so nothing he will remember. And neglect is he will neglect half part of the body, so same like paralysis. And homonymous anopsia, again he will have visual defect in the half side of the body. Okay, so every time these patients, whenever we are serving food also, we have to serve on the unaffected side. Like if we serve food in the affected side, he will neglect the food, he will not know half things what is present in the plate. And disorganized thinking, he will have confusion, so all the disorganized, so immediately there will be mood changes and thought process will be changed. Inside, that is he will not able to think and do anything. Okay, so like for example, we will think something and get idea and take decisions, but these persons will not have the insight. And vertigo and disequilibrium, vertigo means feeling of round and round, like chakkar feeling will be there. And loss of consciousness, so there won't be consciousness. And headache and vomiting if there is a hemorrhagic stroke and there is more fluid, blood is filling the cerebral spinal fluid, that is within the ventricles. If there is more fluid, they will compress the brain, so the pressure will increase and patient will feel the headache and vomiting. So these are the signs and symptoms of stroke.
Diagnostic studies, we have to do a history and physical examination. So in history and physical examination, you can find out like if the patient is prone for getting the stroke. Okay, and physical examination will show loss of consciousness and other signs and symptoms. And next you will do a blood test. So in blood test, we have to do complete blood count, so that you can see if the person is having any problem with the bleeding disorders or if the RBCs are decreased. So in this RBC, WBC and platelet counts will be identified. Okay, and next you also have to do a renal function test. So this all to identify if there is any problem with the electrolytes, etc. Okay, so in renal functions you will be seeing serum electrolytes, urea, creatinine. Okay, so whenever the brain is not functioning, even the organ systems will stop function, so you have to do a renal function test. Okay, and then in liver function test, here you will be doing for bilirubin test, that is total bilirubin, direct, indirect bilirubin on the LDH, lactose dehydrogenase. Okay, and the SGOT, SGPT. So these are all some tests we will be doing. Okay, so these are all enzymes which are responsible for the function of the liver. SGOT is serum glutamine oxalate transaminase. This is serum glutamine pyruvate transferase, and ALP is alkaline phosphatase. Okay, so these are the tests you have to see whether the liver is functioning. Okay, otherwise main test we do is CT scan or CT angiography. Okay, CT scan means just we take the we put the patient in the CT machine and take the scan of the brain. In angiography, we inject a dye, so that this dye will go and perfuse the blood vessels. So in which area clot is there, we can identify. Okay, so here you can identify whether it is a blood clot or is the bleeding. Okay, so because we cannot treat only if we are confirmed whether it is due to thrombotic stroke, that is ischemic stroke, or hemorrhagic stroke, then only we have to start the treatment. So we have to confirm the patient whether it is a blood clot or a bleeding type of stroke. And same way MRI, so this is still potent than CT scan. So you can, if the person, if in CT it is not very clear enough, then you can see with the MR and MR angiography. Same way in MRI, just it is a MRI scan, angiography we inject a dye and then take the scan. Okay, so here any brain injury or any rupture in the blood vessels of the brain you can identify. And there is a SPECT, that is single photon emission computer tomography, SPECT. So this again you can see if there is any damage to the brain tissues. Okay, so I said if there is no if there is okay, so I said if there is no oxygen supplying to the brain, then the brain tissue will go for death. Okay, so we can see if there is any damage to the brain tissue or the brain cells are alive or death, you can identify. And then positron emission tomography, this is PET scan, PET scan. Again this also you can identify the metabolic activity of the brain. The metabolic activity of brain tissue you can identify using the PET scan. And electrocardiogram, this is to identify if there is any heart disease. Okay, so I said heart disease can also cause this. So to identify, they do a heart disease, echocardiogram and electrocardiogram will be done. This is Doppler ultrasonography. So this is to identify the blood flow within the carotid and the cerebral arteries. Okay, so in the cerebral arteries you can identify. So Doppler is nothing but you can feel the pulsation if the arteries are normal without any bleeding. Okay, and then you have to do a coagulation profile. So in so if patient is having clotting disorders, again patient can go for bleeding. So you have to do a coagulation profile. In this you can see platelet count and bleeding time, clotting time, prothrombin time, okay, thrombin time. So all those time you can identify. So with that you can identify if the person is having any bleeding or clotting disorders. And partial thromboplastin time. Okay, again you have to do a lipid profile. So lipid profile to identify if the person is having increased cholesterol. So in lipid profile there will be total cholesterol and low density lipoprotein. So these are all bad cholesterol and these should be in lower amounts. Okay, less than 100 milligram per deciliter. And high density lipoprotein, so they can be in a higher amount, more than 60 milligram per deciliter. And then you can also see the triglycerides. So these should be in between 100 to 150 milligram per deciliter. So in case if the person is prone for any cholesterol deposition, then you can do a lipid profile. And then ABG analysis. So this is to see if there is any problem with the lungs and it is not supplying oxygen or not. Okay, so in ABG you can see the saturation of the blood. Cerebral angiography, here they will inject a dye within the cerebral arteries and they will identify if there is any occlusion or any rupture within the cerebral arteries can be identified. So this is the confirmatory test of cerebral angiography. Okay, coming to the management of stroke. So first we have to identify whether it is a ischemic stroke or hemorrhagic stroke. Okay, because when you go and treat the ischemic stroke, patient can go for hemorrhage because ischemia is big clot. So when you destroy the clot, patient can go for bleeding. So if the patient is having a hemorrhagic stroke and then we go and treat ischemic stroke, then patient's bleeding will further worsen and patient may die. So we have to must be clear with diagnosis whether it is an ischemic or a hemorrhagic stroke. Okay, so in ischemic stroke we give recombinant tissue plasminogen activator. So this drug of choice is atilochase. This will prevent the clot and thereby they decrease the clot and they will improve the blood flow. Okay, so this is the drug of choice. And next they also give anticoagulants. So anticoagulants are nothing but they are antis against, they are against the clot formation. So they give heparin, okay, or low molecular weight heparin. So according to the patient's ability and also the clotting has time, okay. So we do a coagulation studies, according to that we give this drug, okay, low molecular weight heparin or heparin. And again there are so many antiplatelet drugs. So because there is platelet aggregation, we have to remove the platelet aggregation. So these drugs are aspirin, ticagrelor, clopidogrel, dipyramidol, okay, and oral warfarin. These are drugs given in order to remove the platelet. Next we will see in case of hemorrhagic stroke. First is we have to treat the hypertension, okay. So in case patient is having hypertension, we have to give a oral hypertensives, okay. And in case main problem in hemorrhagic stroke is there will be increased bleeding outside and the person may go for cerebral edema, okay. So when there is cerebral edema, we have to release the edema or decrease the edema so that there won't be compression of nerves. So for cerebral edema, we will give mannitol, this injection mannitol IV. This is 20% mannitol will be given, followed by injection furosemide or Lasix. This will be given 20 mg, okay. So mannitol and then furosemide. So mannitol will remove the fluid from the brain. So because brain has blood brain barrier, so mannitol will remove the fluid from the brain and furosemide to excrete the fluid through.
Next, they do surgical management. So in case of ischemic stroke, they do carotid endarterectomy. So it is nothing but removal of the atherosclerotic plaque from the carotid arteries. Okay, so here they will insert a tube below or above the blockage and they will reroute the blood flow, and then they will cut the artery, then remove the atherosclerotic plaque, and then they will close and stitch the incist artery, and then they will remove the tube. This transluminal angioplasty, here they will insert a balloon catheter to open a stenosis artery and improve the blood flow. So a balloon is threaded into the carotid artery via femoral artery. So through femoral artery they will reach the carotid artery and they will from outside inflate and deflate the balloon. So inside the balloon will get inflated and deflated and it will break the thrombus, okay, and thereby thrombus will be released and the blood flow will be improved. After angioplasty procedure, they'll send a stent to carotid artery, okay. So again here same procedure, via femoral cut down they enter the carotid artery, and after inflating and deflating they will remove the block through a balloon, and later again with the balloon catheter they will go to the block area. So this with the balloon catheter they will also send the stent, and once the stent is going in that area, outside the balloon catheter will be inflated so that the stent will be placed in that area. Later they will deflate the balloon catheter and they will remove the balloon catheter, leaving the stent in that place. So because of this, further recurrence or again that area will not go for clot formation and occlusion. So blood flow will be improved. Surgery is extracranial and intracranial bypass. So here they will surgically anastomose and intracranial and extracranial artery. Okay, so that is from the area, that is where the obstruction is there, beyond and before that area they will connect the artery and they will bypass the blood through that artery. Okay, so like superficial temporal artery will be anastomosed with the middle cerebral artery. So where they will see which area obstruction is there, so they will leave that area and they will connect a bypass like artery from the beyond the obstruction so that the blood will go through the bypassed artery.
In nursing management, first we have to monitor the Glasgow Coma score. So in Glasgow Coma score, there is eye opening, verbal response and motor movement. So 15 is the highest score and the lowest score is 3. So based on the score, we will see whether the person is stable. And next is airway maintenance. So patient here they won't have tongue muscle strength, so the tongue will fall back and close respiratory tract. So we have to put an oral airway and prevent the respiratory obstruction. And oxygen therapy, either by mask or endotracheal intubation you can give, so to meet oxygen, and suctioning. So because these patients will have loss of gag reflex, so swallowing will be impaired, So patient can aspirate the saliva, so you have to frequently suction and remove the secretions. And IV fluid has to be maintained as per prescription, and hygiene and bedside care and all the activities of daily living should be provided, because paralysis patient cannot do by himself. To meet the nutritional needs of the person, advise low cholesterol, low fat and low sodium diet to prevent hypertension, and nasogastric feedings for patients who have problem with swallowing.
Then you have to change positions every 2 hourly, because patient can go for spasticity and there will be stiffness of the joints. So you have to keep on giving exercises and change position, and it can also prevent bed sores in case of paralysis. An air mattress and water mattress should be used. Again, it can prevent pressure sores, and you have to teach the patient. You have to do chest physiotherapy to remove secretions, and also active passive exercises to prevent spasticity of the extremities. Next is prevention. Prevention is the main goal of treatment. So once you can, because patient can go for paralysis if we get a stroke, so we must make sure we prevent the disease. Okay, so main thing, you have to control blood pressure. So this can be done either by reducing the salt and cholesterol in diet, and also using medicines, that is antihypertensive drugs, to lower the blood pressure. And in case if patient is smoking, you have to advise them to stop smoking, as smoking can build up the fat substance and it can cause obstruction in the arteries. And exercise regularly and maintain weight in case of obesity. So obesity and in case of inactivity, you have to tell them to do exercise so that they can prevent hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, and also they can reduce the stroke. And low cholesterol level, so you have to tell patient not to take high cholesterol foods. So high cholesterol can cause atherosclerotic plaque, that is blood clot within the blood vessels. So tell the patient to lower cholesterol in the blood. And check for heart disease, so you have to tell the patient to go for regular checkup, that is from the age 40, advise the persons to go and take a whole body checkup, so that you can identify if there is any heart disease, and we can early uh, treat the clogged artery. And management of diabetes, again diabetes, because of increased glucose, the patient can again go for injury to the blood vessels. So you have to tell the person to control diabetes either by diet, that is reducing carbohydrate and sugar in diet, also with insulin therapy and oral hypoglycemic drugs, so that patients will have a control on diabetes. So this is about stroke. I hope you have understood. Thank you for watching. If you are interested, please like, share and comment and subscribe.